that takes us to what has been one of my most anticipated albums of 2026 so far, the debut album from sace6, Brutalist. This album is fantastic. I've only listened to it front to back once, and I really need to give it another full listen, because I remember that so many of the songs transitioned into one another, and it was a really cool listen for that first listen. But I came out of that first listen being underwhelmed. I think I had set my expectations a little too high, and I was expecting this to be like a year-defining album, like a top 10 album of the year, and like high on the list. And the first listen, I came out of it like, it's a good album. I don't know if it's everything I hoped it to be. I think Ego and Covet probably still my favorite songs on here as the two lead singles for this album. And everything else, it was like good. And the funny thing is, for how unique of a sound that they have, and for how unique every song on this album does sound, I couldn't help but feel like this album sounded samey. It was a really interesting dilemma that I was in. But now that I've had this album in rotation for a few weeks, I really need to give this another front to back listen, because just about everything on this album has grown on me, with the exception of Dolores in the middle of the album. The opening stretch of Besotted, literally everything other than Dolores is just fantastic to me.
Oh, I'll get
is Dolores, Dolores is your favorite song, is it?
It's in my top 3, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Every time.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
This guy, man. He hears one slow song on the album, suddenly it's fucking the worst thing ever.
Uneven is a slow song, and Uneven is great. We can agree on that. That is
true.
Right?
That is true.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I think the thing
on that one are not uneven.
Grown on me the most, though, is the stretch of the final 3. Nepenthe, Fabulist, Perfidy is a fucking heater to end this album off on. I feel like you just cursed
skeptical. My bloodline, bro. You just cast a spell. What was that?
I was very skeptical on, especially Fabulist and Perfidy as closers. I really liked Nepenthe on first listen. You like clicked with me immediately with that heavy vocal, no instrumentation opening. And then I felt like Fabulist and Perfidy kind of just did that, but again, and it didn't really work. But the more I've listened to those songs, I don't know, I've been able to distinguish them from one another, and I really love all 3 of them, which is surprising because coming off of the Limerence EP last year, I didn't like the heavy moments on that album. And now some of my favorite moments on this album are the heaviest moments.
I think that you should need to go back and listen to that EP.
And I did listen to it. I listened to it like fairly recently, just to give it another chance. And I was still, my opinion hasn't changed since I first heard that EP. I was still kind of whelmed by the heavier moments. Really only liked Wake Up and Easy Exit. But this album is fantastic and one of my favorite albums I've heard so far this year.
I really appreciate how this band, especially on this album, are like, I think their Spotify bio is pop music, and I feel like this is, for all intents and purposes, very, very pop music oriented. Like this is heavy pop. If I had to like take one step further than the home team, I would say that this is heavy pop, and I think that because they're leaning into that kind of pop R&B side of things, they are really pushing the limits of how much this kind of smooth, soaring R&B vocal can go over guitars that are at points kind of as down-tuned as they could reasonably be. But it works. I think that they've done a great job of melding those two sounds and riding that boundary without flying too close to the sun. I think, for me, Jake, I'm sorry, I think Besotted and Reverie are probably my two out of the 3 least favorite songs on the album for me, with Fabulist being the third. And for me, I think that Fabulous, well, they all kind of fall victim to the same thing, in my opinion. And it's that this album front to back is fantastic. I'll agree with you there. And I think that when this album is at its strongest is when it's exploring and continuing to push that boundary that they're already pushing by writing that line between pop and heaviness. And for me, I think that the guitars, and I don't know if this is a streaming service issue, but the guitars definitely feel a little compressed on this album. And when they're given space among everything else to really work, like on Basorexia, for instance, Allure, track 4, like there was a moment, I think it was, I had to take a screenshot of it because I was on my phone, yeah. Verse 2, where there's a delivery where he says, so sure of everything, and then there's a pause, and he says, now. And the guitars in particular flow like seamlessly along with his delivery. That, it's working perfect. And then you slow it down on songs like Dolores or Uneven. Great, fantastic. Obviously, we've talked for eons about Ego and Covet, as we should, because they're both fantastic, but they're also very original, I guess would be the way to put it. To me, Besotted and Reverie, because they don't, at least for me, have that single they're both solid songs, but they don't necessarily have a huge standout moment, in my opinion. And because they flow so well into each other, what you end up getting is kind of like 8 minutes to start the album off where I know I'm hearing really good vocals. I'm hearing heavy instrumentation. Oh, here is the unclean section. But the guitar is so compressed and muddy that I don't actually feel like I'm listening to a different song because they haven't switched up the instrumentation in the same way that they do on the rest of the album. And I think Fabulous, my same gripe, is that is like almost all heaviness and guitars, right? And then, so you have a moment to say, okay, well, here are these two main elements, and one of them is super compressed. I don't know if it's an intentional choice, and that's one of the things that, because the production on Limerence, the EP, was super tight, super solid, and there are moments on here where they choose to make that production really tight. And what I've been wondering is that a intentional choice because of the theme of the album? Because like Brutalist? Yeah, like Brutalism, as far as I know, as an art style, is like very gritty, like concrete, like it's sort of in your face type of deal. And I know, at least from, that's the other thing, from the lyrics I could understand on the album, they're very personal and they're related a lot to the push and pull mentally and emotionally of a relationship that you've like been out of or like in and out of and trying to get with maybe somebody else to try and get over those feelings and falling back into that person. I think that was a big thing of Nepenthe. And just that like that sort of chaotic and messy emotional hurricane of sorts is like, if that's the theme they're going for and it's supposed to be raw and gritty, then the production becomes an intentional choice, at which point, fair play. But if I'm looking for songs that I want to go back to and playlist and listen to, then I'm not sure that Besotted and Reverie are going to hit that mark in the same way that I feel like the other songs in this album do. But to your point about only having heard it once, I've also only heard it once, and I would be interested to see, as I'm able to delve more into the lyrics and the themes, if that changes my opinion on the opener at all. It did very much for Spirit Box. I hated Fata Morgana as an opener. Turned out it was my album of the year. Who knew? So we'll see with time. But I was hoping that it would be this good after hearing the EP, and other than that one gripe, this is a fantastic album. I mean,
there's also nothing that sounds like it. This is the only place that you're going to get something like this.
110%. They've carved their own niche out. Not dissimilar, but also similar to like a Nature's Ghost. That like, I mean, there's Bring Me in some aspects, but like they've combined influences to be who they are. sace6 have said, let's see just how low we can tune the guitars on our heavy pop and how high we can get our vocals. How the hell does it work? But it does. Nobody's doing it like them. It's incredible.
One thing we haven't talked about since Spotify's done it is Lossless. Have you turned that on? Because you were mentioning you turned that on.
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
Oh, you got him, man. It's I didn't think it would be that much of a difference because I don't use Apple Music, and I'm like, man, like, so whatever. Yeah. Those Apple Music users weren't lying, man. It's a pretty big difference. It's nice. Yeah, it's not that you can't discern,
especially on your computer. It's like,
why am I getting a call from DoorDash? I didn't order DoorDash. All right, all good, no worries. All right, if they want to drop me off some food, I guess I won't complain. I'll never say no. I didn't order it.
Cookout.
Free food. Ah, shit. Cookout is not on DoorDash. Oh my dude, if Cookout was on DoorDash, you don't understand. There are like 2 or 3 high schools in like a 5 to 10 minute proximity of my Cookout. On a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter what time of day or night it is, it's over. You're not getting in that line and taking any less than 20 minutes. If people could DoorDash Cookout, it would be over.
I still don't know why.
Again.
I live less than less than half a mile. I still don't know why I didn't take you guys there.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. You got a guy who's not from America. You won't take him to the most American establishment.
I took him to Waffle House. What do you mean?
To his credit, Waffle House is a quintessential American station.
Yeah.
I will say.
We also went to Raising
Cane's. So
Yeah.
we went to it in like a military mall.
What else did we do? Chili's.
Chili's is a good one.
That place is no longer there because that mall got
That's
shut
right.
down.
Yeah, I was messed up. Anyway, Jake, do you have anything else that you wanted to mention?
I don't really have too much more to say. The interesting thing about this album for me is that like I like it so much, but I can't really get into too much detail about why I like it so much. Like I haven't really picked out any like super deep lyrical meaning to connect with on this album. There aren't any like particular like choruses or vocal moments that are like, wow, that's like one of the best choruses on the album. Whereas like there are other albums where like I can pick out moments that are like, oh, that's like one of my favorite moments. And this is just like, this is all just fantastic. I think it is a bit of that, like every song is so unique, yet on the whole, the sum of its parts sounds samey, is why I struggle to kind of make that distinction. And I think at the end of the year, that's, if anything's going to hold it back, it's going to be that for me.
Yeah, I will say that like even with, I guess with their previous EP titled Limerence, that like if you're at all looking for music to connect to about like emotional deprivation, limerence, like longing, yearning, struggling, I think that this, from what I've been able to pick up, is going to be an album that if you can keep the lyrics up while you listen to it, is going to be something you really connect to. I think that to your point about end of year, I think that for me is going to be the part that makes those first 2 songs click, and brings everything back. Because I definitely think that I wouldn't go so far as to call it a concept album, but I definitely think there is a world in which the guitar mixing on some of these songs is an intentional choice, in which case my opinion on them will flip heavily. But just from a first listen perspective, it's been difficult to get into those first 2, even though they are good songs. Just the rest of the album for me is just so much better. They really do blend these styles together super well. Nobody's doing it like them.